My name is Emily Carter, and this morning, I signed the papers that changed everything. The crisp folder sits on my desk, its golden seal catching the morning light spilling through the wide glass windows of my office. The words stamped across the top still make my chest tighten. United States Patent and Trademark Office. Beneath it, in bold letters, is my name. My idea. My invention.
Mine.
Funny, isn't it? The same idea they once laughed at, calling it naive, silly, impossible. Back then, their laughter felt like a knife pressed against my ribs. Today, their laughter echoes in my mind like background noise I've long since tuned out. Because now I own it. The silk of my blouse brushes coolly against my skin as I lean back in my chair, sipping coffee that's gone lukewarm. My phone buzzes again, another missed call from a number I know by heart. It's him, one of the first to mock me. Now he's desperate for a meeting. I let the phone rest on the desk, vibrating against the polished wood, as I stare out at the skyline. My reflection looks back at me from the glass, calm, poised, successful. They don't know the story behind this smile. They don't know the scars beneath this blouse. But soon they will. I was 22 the first time I shared my idea out loud. Fresh out of college, full of caffeine and ambition, I walked into that conference room believing passion would be enough. My hands clutched a stack of neatly printed notes, diagrams I'd spent weeks perfecting, and a heart that wouldn't stop pounding. Across the table sat people I trusted, family, a couple of old friends, even my boyfriend at the time. They'd all agreed to hear me out, though some looked more entertained than intrigued. I told myself it didn't matter. This was my chance. I launched into my pitch, explaining how this small, overlooked concept could change the way we lived, worked, even saved money. My words spilled fast at first, then steadied when I saw a few nods. For a moment, I thought I was convincing them. For a moment, I felt 10 feet tall. And then it happened. The first chuckle, then another, and then outright laughter. "Emily, seriously?" one of them said between smirks. "That's cute," another added, exchanging glances. My boyfriend leaned back, arms crossed, lips curled. "Babe, that's not how the real world works." Each word hit harder than the last. My throat tightened, the diagrams blurred through the sting of tears I refused to let fall. My hands shook as I tried to steady the papers, pretending I didn't hear the sarcasm in their voices. "Dreams are fine," someone said, "but you need a real plan.
A job.
Something stable. Not this fantasy." I wanted to shout, to scream that they were wrong. Instead, I swallowed the lump in my throat, nodded, and quietly gathered my notes as their laughter faded into casual chatter, like my idea had been nothing more than a passing joke. That night, I sat in my tiny apartment, the weight of rejection pressing down on me harder than the cheap mattress beneath me. I pulled out a small, leather-bound notebook my grandmother had given me years ago. Inside the cover, she'd written in her shaky handwriting, "Don't throw away your ideas, Emily. One day, they'll pay your bills." I traced her words with trembling fingers. For the first time since that humiliating meeting, my tears finally fell, but with them came a spark. If no one else believed in me, I would believe in myself. That was the night I decided. No matter how long it took, no matter how hard it got, I would prove them wrong. The morning after that decision, I woke up with puffy eyes, an empty fridge, and a fire in my chest that no amount of ridicule could extinguish. I started small, scribbling designs, drafting sketches, and running calculations late into the night after my day job. By day, I answered phones at a dull corporate office. By night, I built the bones of the future no one else could see. The notebook became my secret weapon. Every page filled with numbers, possibilities, and notes written in the margins like whispered encouragements. "Don't quit, Emily. Keep going." But dreams are expensive. Prototypes aren't free. I picked up extra shifts, worked weekends, and sold old clothes online just to save enough to buy my first set of materials. I remember sitting cross-legged on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by scraps and broken attempts, my fingers sore, my back aching. Some nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering if they had been right all along. Then, a turning point. At a small innovation workshop, I met Dr. Laura Mitchell, a seasoned engineer with streaks of silver in her hair and eyes that saw right through excuses. She caught me lingering after a lecture, clutching my rough sketches like a lifeline. "Show me," she said simply. My voice shook as I explained. I braced for laughter. But instead, she leaned in, studying the pages like they were treasure. When she finally looked up, she smiled. "This has potential. Don't let anyone talk you out of it." Her words felt like oxygen. Under Laura's mentorship, I learned how to refine my idea, how to test it without draining every cent I owned, how to present it with confidence. She didn't sugarcoat the truth. I failed often, hit roadblocks, and faced doors slammed in my face. But each time I fell, she pushed me to stand taller. "Every no is just one step closer to your yes," she'd remind me. The first yes came quietly. A small grant, barely enough to cover my bills, but it meant the world. Then a local entrepreneur bought into my prototype, offering funding in exchange for a share. For the first time, I tasted validation. From there, things snowballed. I reinvested every dollar, poured every ounce of energy into growth. The prototype became a product. The product attracted clients. The clients brought investors. With each milestone, I updated my grandmother's notebook, slipping sketches beside her old note until the pages bulged with proof of persistence. And yet, I kept my success hidden. When family called, I downplayed everything. "I'm keeping busy," I'd say. On social media, I posted pictures of coffee cups and sunsets, never boardrooms or contracts. Let them believe I was still figuring things out. It was easier that way, because deep down, I didn't want to share half-formed progress with people who'd only ever laughed. I wanted the day to come when I could unveil it all at once, when the truth would silence every smirk, every dismissive word. That day was closer than they knew. It happened on a Thursday evening, the kind of evening when the city glowed gold, and everything felt like it was holding its breath. My phone buzzed again, another message from the same person who had mocked me years ago. Jason Miller. Back then, he was the loudest laugher at the table. My boyfriend. The man who told me to grow up when I dreamed out loud. Now, his tone had changed. "Emily, we really need to talk. It's urgent. Can we meet? Please." I almost deleted the message. Almost. But something inside me, call it curiosity, call it justice, wanted to see his face when he realized the joke wasn't on me anymore. So I agreed. We chose a downtown restaurant, the kind with white tablecloths, soft jazz, and a wait list months long unless you knew someone. I didn't just know someone. I owned part of it. I arrived early, wearing a tailored navy dress that felt like armor. The hostess greeted me with warmth, leading me to a private corner booth. When Jason walked in, his eyes widened slightly, not just at me, but at the way the staff treated me. Respectfully. Like someone important. "Emily," he said, his smile strained, his confidence thinner than I remembered. "Wow, you look different." "Successful?" I asked smoothly, raising an eyebrow. He chuckled nervously and sat across from me. "Listen, I wanted to apologize, first of all, for, back then. We were kids, right? Stupid. I didn't mean to hurt you." I let him squirm for a moment before speaking. "You didn't just hurt me, Jason. You tried to crush me." His smile faltered. "Yeah, I know. But that's why I wanted to meet. Things have changed. My company. Well, we've hit some rough patches. And, funny enough, we've been exploring a concept that sounds a lot like, well, your old idea." He laughed lightly, waiting for me to join. I didn't. Instead, I reached into my bag, pulled out a sleek leather folder, and placed it on the table between us. Slowly, deliberately, I slid it across until it rested under his fingertips. "Go ahead," I said softly. "Open it." He flipped it open, scanning the document inside. His face drained of color. The logo at the top, the bold letters reading United States Patent and Trademark Office. And beneath it, my name. My invention. My ownership. My power. This can't be real," he whispered, his voice cracking. "Oh, it's very real," I replied. "The idea you laughed at? The one you said was childish?" I own it now. Not just the idea, the patent, the rights, the future you thought I'd never have. For a moment, silence hung heavy between us. Then he laughed again, hollow this time. Emily, come on. We could work together. You and me, we'd make a great team. I can bring funding, connections. I cut him off. Jason, I don't need you. I never did. The connections? I built them. The funding? I earned it. The team? I already have one. The only thing you ever gave me was motivation. His mouth opened, then closed. The confidence he once wore like a crown had crumbled into dust. And then, as if the universe wanted to twist the knife, the waiter arrived with 2 glasses of champagne on the house. Congratulations again, Miss Carter, he said with a smile. Everyone's so proud of you. Jason's eyes flicked from the waiter to me, realization dawning. This wasn't just luck. This was legacy. I lifted my glass, watching the bubbles rise, watching his pride sink. To the future, I said calmly. He didn't toast. He just sat there, staring at the folder like it was a gravestone. The patent wasn't just a document. It was proof. Proof that I had won. Jason wasn't the only one who came knocking. Word travels fast in business, especially when the person you underestimated suddenly owns something everyone else wants. Within weeks, my inbox filled with messages from familiar names. People who had once smirked at me, rolled their eyes, or patted my shoulder as if I were a child playing dress-up in the real world. Now they wanted in. One by one, I agreed to meet them, not because I needed them, but because part of me wanted closure. I wanted to look them in the eye, hear their voices crack, and set the terms myself. The first was my cousin, Amanda. She'd been ruthless during that family pitch years ago, laughing the loudest. She walked into my office now, designer bag on her arm, desperation in her smile. Emily, she said sweetly, I always knew you were brilliant. I was just teasing back then. You know how family is. I leaned back in my chair, the patent framed on the wall behind me like a silent witness. If you want to work with me, Amanda, here's the condition, honesty. No more tearing people down to feel taller. You want a role? Prove you can support others without cruelty. Her face tightened, but she nodded. Then came Mark, an old classmate who once told me I'd be better off focusing on something women are naturally good at. Now he wanted a stake in the company. Mark, I said, sliding his proposal back to him, you'll only work with me if you learn to respect women in the room. No talking over them. No dismissing them. You want my partnership? Show me you can listen. He flushed crimson, but murmured his agreement. Even Jason returned, more than once, his pride shrinking each time. He wanted forgiveness, a position, a second chance. I looked him dead in the eye. Jason, if you ever want to be in business with me, the condition is this. You admit the truth. Not just to me, but to yourself. That you try to kill my dream because you couldn't see beyond your own ego. And that you were wrong. He shifted uncomfortably, his jaw tightening. Silence. No agreement. Not yet. It wasn't about revenge. It was about rewriting the rules. For too long, I had let other people's voices define my worth. Now I would decide the terms. Compassionate but firm. Merciful but unbending. Some of them accepted. Some walked away. That was fine. I didn't need everyone. What I needed, what I demanded, was respect. As the meetings ended, I stood by my office window, looking out at the skyline that once felt unreachable. My reflection stared back, a woman who had been underestimated, mocked, and dismissed, but who had risen anyway. And I realized this was never just about a patent. It was about reclaiming power, about teaching the people who doubted me that belief isn't a gift they get to give or withhold. It's a fire that lives inside me, unshakable, untouchable. Now the conditions were clear. Anyone who wanted to walk with me had to rise with me. Otherwise, they could stay in the past, where their laughter still echoed, faint and powerless. Change didn't happen overnight, but it happened. Amanda stopped showing up with rehearsed smiles and instead began asking real questions. She admitted her jealousy, the insecurity that had fueled her cruelty. For the first time, we spoke as women, not rivals, not family critics, just women trying to be better. Mark surprised me, too. I heard from colleagues that he'd started mentoring young female interns, making space for their voices in meetings instead of speaking over them. He even reached out to me once, not to ask for a deal, but simply to say, "You were right. I should have listened years ago." And Jason eventually cracked. Months after our first meeting, he showed up at my office unannounced, shoulders slumped, eyes hollow. He placed no proposal on my desk this time. Just words. "I was wrong, Emily. About you. About your idea. About everything." I laughed because I was scared. "You dreamed bigger than I did, and I couldn't handle it." For the first time, I believed him. Not because of his tone, but because he finally said what I'd waited years to hear, the truth.
I didn't offer him a job.
But I offered him peace. Sometimes that's enough. Late one night, after the calls, the deals, the endless rush of business, I sat alone in my office with my grandmother's leather notebook in my hands. The edges were worn, the pages filled, but her message on the inside cover still glowed like fresh ink. "Don't throw away your ideas, Emily. One day, they'll pay your bills." I smiled through tears, whispering to the empty room, "Grandma, they're paying more than bills. They're paying for the life I was told I couldn't have." The city lights sparkled beyond the glass, and for once, the laughter from my past didn't sting. It felt like background noise, too faint to touch me now. I closed the notebook gently, placed it beside the framed patent, and let myself breathe. Not with anger, not with bitterness, but with grace. Because the truth is, this journey was never just about proving them wrong. It was about proving myself right. And as the night deepened, I spoke the words that have become my quiet mantra, my final voiceover to the story they thought would end in failure. They mocked my idea.
But now?
I own the patent and the life they said I'd never have.